afternoon, everybody, from the KXAN Live studios. I'm Billy Gates, and this is, of course, the Horns Report, where we talk about all things UT athletics. And we've got quite a bit to cover today. With me, as usual, is Roger Wallace, KXAN Sports Director. We just go right to softball, so they just pulled that up. Didn't even do the two box. There we go. There's both of us. Roger's here. I'm here. We're all here.
Fresh off a wonderful weekend in College Station.
Right, which is, everyone says that anytime they go to College Station, so it makes sense you had a wonderful weekend. Before we get to baseball, though, let's get to softball. They've got a pretty important game tonight. They take on Stanford again in the Women's College World Series semifinals, 6 p.m. Central Time up in OKC. A win sends the Longhorns to the championship series, and a loss, they have to play Stanford again immediately after this first game. So they could end up playing one game, could end up playing two. Who knows? But this has been quite a run that the Longhorns have been on this summer.
Yeah, as good as they've been, think about what they've done in Oklahoma City. They've allowed as many hits as they have wins, or I guess flip it. They have as many wins as they've allowed hits. 2 one-hit shutouts in the driver's seat in their bracket. Stanford's got to beat them twice after Texas already beat Stanford. Stanford's thrown their All-American pitcher, Nigeria candidate, every inning this World Series. You got to figure at some point she might get a little fatigued. Longhorns threw Tegan Cavan in Game 1, Mac Morgan in Game 2. They've got other options. They appear to be in a pretty good spot to get to the championship round, and who knows what will happen. As we are doing this live, Oklahoma is trailing Florida, which could force an if-necessary game in that side of the bracket. That would be tomorrow because rain backed things up today. They aren't going to play a second if-necessary game with Florida and Oklahoma because then that would back up Texas and Stanford. So, again, there's still some time to go in that one, some innings to go, but that'd be quite a shock if OU had to play a winner-take-all against Florida.
Yeah, especially in their backyard. I mean, because let's face it. I mean, Mike White talked about this earlier in the tournament. The Sooners have a huge advantage, basically playing at home. It's not Love's Field. It's not their home, but I mean, Norman's a half hour away from ASA Hall of Fame Stadium, or excuse me, OGE Energy, whatever corporate name for it.
Yeah, and I've heard some national discussion about. Mike White is in the loud minority of wanting to move around, and I think it's very simple. If you're competing for the national title and you know that you're going to have to play in Oklahoma's backyard, of course you're going to say we'd like to move it around. Right. He understands what that city, that area means to softball, but as you said, Billy, there is a built-in advantage, and the only thing I can think of is if Creighton, which is about a half mile away from Charles Schwab Field in Omaha, were a baseball power. Now, they have actually gone to the College World Series, but if they were a consistent baseball power and they played down the street, you would say, okay, yeah, we get Omaha's great, but do they have an advantage? So I think it's twofold. Mike White wants the most balanced, what's supposed to be a neutral site championship. And he understands as long as OU is a threat, or Oklahoma State for that matter. Of course you'd want to move it around just to get away from them. It's not because you don't like it in Oklahoma State. You want to get away from the fans and have it be a little more balanced. I think that's just kind of a natural reaction. And the coaches that don't say it probably are thinking it.
Sure, of course they are. Of course they are. Well, it's not going away from OKC for a while. I believe they have a contract till like 2030, I think, with the city. So
where's a facility that could do it? So same as Omaha.
Exactly. Yep. Where else are they going to play it with such a top class facility? And the folks in Oklahoma City have put a lot into that stadium there on the grounds of the ASA USA Baseball Hall of Fame. I mean, they've added seats. I mean, I think they've added seats every single year for the past 5 or 6 years. Like they've made that kind of like the softball sort of mecca, like sort of like the final ending place of everything softball is Oklahoma City.
He's not arguing that it's not a great location. It's not supported great. None of that. It's just simple. You don't want to start a World Series as the road team every game, or one team is basically has 90% of the crowd in their favor. I'm pretty certain that's all Mike White's talking about.
Nope, that makes a lot of sense to me, as it should to all of you, because you should all adopt our opinions, clearly. So at 6 p.m. tonight, ESPN 2, I believe, or maybe it's on the big network. I can't remember which it's on. It's on one of the ESPNs. Texas takes on Stanford again. Beat them 4-0 in the opening round of the Women's College World Series. Tegan Cavan threw a one-hitter that game, so it'll be interesting to see who Mike White goes with in the circle this time around against Stanford. Like Roger said, you know they're going with Najee Canaday, the USA Softball National Player of the Year. So
yeah, and you know, she pitched great after that, but you know, now she's got to deal with that Texas offense, a rested Texas team. Not sure if that makes as much of a difference in softball as in baseball, especially for the pitchers. Obviously, it doesn't, or you wouldn't trot her out there every game. But just knowing that Stanford has no margin for error,
right.
Longhorns aren't going to go into this thinking, oh, we can, you know, lose a game. But that's the simple reality is they've got a loss at their disposal, and Stanford doesn't.
Yep. 6 p.m. tonight. Watch it. Love it. Softball's great. I love watching great softball. This is a fun time of year with the softball and baseball playoffs going on. Speaking of baseball, more somber news for Longhorns fans. The baseball team bowed out of the NCAA tournament with a loss yesterday to Louisiana. They're in the College Station Regional. That's what we were referring to earlier when Roger had such a great time in College Station. He was there doing radio for the game. And 10-2 was the final score there. They had previously beaten Louisiana 12-5 in the first round, but then played probably the most emotionally charged game they've played the entire season against Texas A&M. Lose 4-2 in 11 innings. Roger, just that firsthand experience. I mean, what was that game like for you?
Yeah, it was incredible. I mean, Jim Schlossnagle, the head coach, said, "I want to know who counted the attendance because it was less than 7,500, I think, announced." And he joked that I want that person doing my taxes because they were literally, they're on balconies in the rec center. They were everywhere they could find outside of the stadium as well. And Texas is right there. They're basically 4 outs away. Yeah. Can't get that final out in the 8th inning on the hard ground ball. Jalen Flores, normally one of their best defensive players, couple of errors, and then the Peyton Powell play on a ball that just kind of handcuffed him and probably got a little bit tight on trying to stop that roller down third. That allowed the go-ahead run to score, and then a wild pitch. And then all of a sudden they've got a 2-run lead. Longhorns don't come back. It was incredible. So not only do they start him at 8 o'clock, and this is where I again, it's another little thing, but if you know the loser's going to have to come back at 2 o'clock and you started at 8, well, you've just built in a pretty significant disadvantage for the team that loses that game. Yeah. And then it goes 11. So all of a sudden, you know, they're probably not back to the hotel till after 1 o'clock.
No, I believe the final out came right as the clock hit midnight.
Yeah, like, so by the time
it was 12 straight up, and then the game was over.
Yeah, so and then they have to obviously decompress, get ready to play a team that won in the afternoon. They're feeling really good, and I know this is the way the regionals stacked up. And Texas, you know, David Pierce has never been in this spot at Texas. He's been 2-0 in every regional. The only one he didn't win was the one in Long Beach his first year. They went 2-0, and then they lost to the home team, Long Beach. So when he talked about it, about, you know, having to bounce back, part of that is he never experienced it at Texas. He did at Sam Houston.
Right. That Sam Houston story you told was crazy.
Yeah, with TCU.
The 22-inning game.
Yeah, against Jim Schlossnagle.
Against Schlossnagle, yeah, exactly.
So you do that, and then it's the rival game, it's the emotion, it's the, you know, all that, and you know, they came out and they put themselves in a position to win. Ace Whitehead was outstanding.
He's great.
And then, you know, gets away from him late, home run, game's out of reach, and quite a turn of events for a team that you win against A&M on Saturday, and who knows. And then, oh, by the way, Billy, Oregon wins the Santa Barbara Regional.
I know.
So I know I'm going way ahead, and it didn't even get close to this. But if Texas had won this regional, there's a good chance they host. They were both 3 seeds, and Texas would have beaten a higher seeded team, and I'm sure their bid would be at least as good or better than Oregon's financially. So, I mean, they didn't even get close because they didn't even get to the championship round. But all that, they're up 2-1 in the 8th inning on Saturday night, and then things unravel. Then David Pierce has to answer questions about his future, and who knows, 8 years, 3 College World Series, Big 12 championships in the regular season, but 2 straight years where one they lose in a heartbreak fashion at Stanford, don't get to Omaha, and then this year they don't get out of the regional for the second time. Didn't make the tournament his second year.
This year was pretty rocky for the Longhorns baseball team, to kind of just say the least. I mean, it was very, very up and down. But I mean, when they needed a win, I mean, obviously outside of this Louisiana game, but like whenever they needed a big win during the season, they typically got it. Like this team fought like tooth and nail every series. I mean, they won every Big 12 series except for the BYU series, which still just blows me away.
And the thing about that is that's really the calling card. Every season they've kind of had something they could hang their hat on. Even his first year, they got to the regional championship. But here, they didn't win a regular season title. They didn't make a run at the Big 12 tournament. They didn't obviously make a run. So, their calling card is kind of 9 out of 10 in every road series. Well, that's okay.
Right.
And I think that's what David Pierce would say. It was just kind of an okay year. And so now we'll see what happens. Everybody knows they're going to the SEC. And we'll see what the next few weeks brings. I'm sure he fully intends to be back. And portal open today. I heard 4,000 players are going to be in the portal by the end of the day. So he and his staff aren't going on vacation.
No,
they're diving deep.
Yeah, they have to. Yeah. That is 4,000 just spring sports, like the
baseball.
Just baseball. Okay.
The portal officially opened today. You can go in the portal, but today it's officially open. Where other school,
where you can start contacting kids and stuff like that.
Where the process begins.
Yeah.
And I was told by some folks that part of their job is dealing with the portal. They expected 4,000 players to go in today.
That is
insane.
That is nuts. Like what?
Remember Gavin Cash from Texas Tech?
Is he?
He went in the portal.
Okay.
Started at Texas, transferred, kind of had that Max Ballou first year. Didn't play much, got frustrated, left. Had the monster year last year.
Great year,
not as good this year. He's in the portal, and he's draft eligible.
So, I mean,
that's kind of a backup.
Yeah, there's a chance. He seems like he'd be sort of like a top 15 round kind of pick to
me.
You
would think.
So,
but he's in there.
Yeah.
So potentially looking for his third school, and that's the first name that jumped out at me because Longhorn fans remember him at Texas, and then having that great year last year at Texas Tech. Not as good this year, but still. And they can go get paid too.
Yeah.
So maybe he wants to get paid one more year in college if he can find a school with a big NIL budget.
Sure.
And then go in the draft next year.
Kids stick around, and if they're not going to get that big bonus money, then they can get bonus money from whatever college they go to.
No doubt.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. So the baseball team, they end the season 36-24. Like we were saying earlier, maybe just an okay year for them. So we'll see. We'll see what they do coming up. So, but until then, enjoy the rest of the Super Regionals and the College World Series. Again, I love this time of year with college sports. I mean, I almost like it more than March Madness just because I'm a softball and baseball kind of junkie. So this is like Christmas for me.
I think the baseball tournament is something that it's caught on, but not like March Madness.
Right.
But if you just like good emotion and the fact that there's so many games over from Friday all the way until tonight, 8 o'clock tonight, Oklahoma and UConn play that winner take all 7th game in Norman, and then the Super Regionals start up on Friday. I think it's underrated because of the time of the year, NBA Finals, but they take breaks between games, and then Stanley Cup, and not a lot going on here in the sports world. I think you're right. I think it's a great event. I think you can just kind of latch on and watch the emotion of these games.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely love it. A sport we don't typically get around to talking about, although this is an Olympic year, so you're going to hear more about the rowing, the sport of rowing. You're going to hear more about that as soon as we get closer to Paris here in about a month or so. It's crazy to think that the Olympics are just around the corner. But the Texas rowing team, they pick up their 3rd national championship in the past 4 seasons. Just a dominant program. For the Longhorns. I mean, they've won every Big 12 championship that's ever been contested in rowing and women's rowing, and it's crazy what kind of program they've built. They beat Stanford. There's been a lot of Texas-Stanford matchups lately. They beat Stanford by 3 points in the team standings. Coach Dave O'Neill, he's had them in the top 8 every single year of his 9-year career at Texas. And what I found out after writing this story for KXN.com yesterday is that there's a lot of folks out there who just love winners. And if Texas wins a national championship, and they could win it in rowing, they could win it in chess, checkers, tiddlywinks. People love reading about a winner, Roger.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. It makes them feel good, Longhorns. And here's one of the things that gets lost in rowing. Look at that picture right there. Look how many athletes they have.
Yeah, well,
rowing, one of the big reasons rowing is at the University of Texas is they had to get those scholarship numbers up for Title IX on the women's side. And you look at how big the rowing team is. So they do that. And then, oh, by the way, let's go ahead and get a guy from Cal. It might as well be the best at it if we're going to go ahead and have a rowing team and give out scholarships. And so, yeah, this time of year. And the other thing about rowing, you say people don't know a lot about it. That thing was over by 9 o'clock this Sunday morning Central Time.
They get after it.
Yeah, they took care of business in Ohio early, so they're hoisting a national championship. It's got to be the earliest of any sport out there where they maybe cross country in the fall when their races occur. But anyway, they win another national title. They take another giant step towards winning the President's Cup, the Athletic Directors Cup. Can't keep track of what it's called these days.
It's the Learfield
used to be the Sears Cup.
Yeah,
way back in the day. Way back when that was.
I think Learfield has IMG something rather. Yeah.
But anyway, they typically battle with Stanford, and of course Stanford has so many more sports.
Yeah.
So they rack up a lot of points, but you've got that. You still have softball, and you still have men's and women's track and field that get started later this week to add some more points. And oh, by the way, baseball now, the latest of the sports to officially say goodbye to the Big 12. So now you're down to softball and track and field.
Yeah. Yeah, just a great time for any sports lover for sure. Now, before we came on, you broke some basketball recruiting news to me. Looks like the Longhorns secured an Austin kid, except this Austin kid played for that little basketball school named Oak Hill Academy for a couple seasons. Like, what's the deal with that, Roger?
Yeah, his name's Jamie Vincent. He played at St. Stephen's for 2 years. Oak Hill Academy, of course, one of the powerhouse prep schools in Virginia. He's 6'11". Kentucky was on him. South Carolina was on him. Rutgers was on him. Texas lost out in the portal to J.T. Toppin, who had one great year at New Mexico. Texas Tech got him. So Rodney Terry, instead of getting a guy that's probably a one and done, he goes and gets a guy that's probably going to be a bit of a project. He's 6'11", only about 210 pounds. But you got to build some infrastructure along with the portal. So what you lose in maybe immediate help, you might get the benefit on the back end if he's around for a couple, 3 years.
Yeah.
So name is Jamie Vincent from Austin, Oak Hill Academy. He is enrolled. It's official. It's not a committed.
Nice.
Texas has already announced it that he is signed, sealed, and delivered.
And as the old cliche goes, you can't teach height.
Can't.
6'11" is a very tall person.
Always want a rim protector too. And they had Caden Shedrick, Zarek Onyema, and now you've got a third big who, again, who knows how much he'll play his freshman year, but you got to have bodies.
I was going to say, 6'11", 220 sounds a little thin, but, I mean, there's nothing the weight room can't fix, right?
Yeah, they got a few months. So.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, that will do it for this episode of the Horns Report. Thanks so much for watching. We really appreciate it. And for Roger Wallace, I'm Billy Gates, and we will talk to you again very soon.